Welcome to our English lesson for today. And as I said in the live session, it's on idioms and extended metaphors. So our aim for today is to be able to identify an idiom and what an extended metaphor is. And our task at the very end is going to be able to write our own poem. So first off, let's look at idioms. What are they and why do we use them, or when do we use them? So idioms are phrases which people use in everyday language. So you use it just as a turn of phrase, something you say, which doesn't make sense if we take it literally. But we know what they mean by what they say, even if it's not the literal meaning. So some idioms can be quite confusing because we can talk about it, but it's not actually, we're not saying what we mean. So an idiom needs to be taken apart, so it's separate. Its meaning is different from the meaning of the individual words that are being used. So, for example, it's raining cats and dogs. The literal meaning would suggest that cats and dogs were falling from the sky, which we know normally wouldn't happen. But it's interpreted to mean that it's raining very hard. So, if we were to use it's raining cats and dogs as a phrase, people who knew the idiom would assume that we're meaning that it's raining very hard, which is the correct way of using it. But if you don't know the idiom, then you may be confused if someone was to say, oh, wow, it's raining cats and dogs out there. You would think, what actually is going on? Which is sometimes why some people will get idioms, because idioms are just part of the conversations they hear around the place, whereas others haven't heard them and therefore need to work out what they mean. So we're going to go through a few idioms now, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to think about what some idioms might mean, or can we work out what they might mean? So let's have a look at some more examples. So other examples are to stick your neck out. If you stick your neck out, it's to say something is bold or a bit dangerous. If you stick your neck out, then you're being bold or dangerous, a little bit dangerous. A similar idiom that's used for slightly more dangerous situations would be if you're going out on a limb. You're obviously not out on a limb, but that's what it means, that if you put yourself in a bad situation or in a dangerous situation at least. In both idioms, the idea is that you put yourself in a vulnerable position. You're putting yourself at risk to put your neck out or to go out on a limb. Another one would be to break the ice. If you think about what breaking the ice is, it's literally just breaking ice. But actually, the meaning behind this one is to be the first to say or do something with the expectation that others are going to do the same thing. Another idiom that means something similar is to get the ball rolling. And quite often this happens in conversations. So if you're in a conversation with somebody and no one has said anything, you might break the ice by being the first to say something. Or if you're in a situation where you're asking lots of questions, you might be the first person to ask a question, and therefore you might get the ball rolling. To get long in the tooth. And what this means is to get old. The expression was originally used referring to horses, since as they get older, their gums recede with age, and therefore they look longer. So the longer a horse's teeth, the older they're said to be. But it's used now, if you're getting long in the tooth, it means you're getting old. And you can be used in lots of different ways. Getting a bit of long in the tooth with this game means you're getting old within the game, or whatever it happens to be. To have a chip on one's shoulder, or to have a chip on your shoulder. It's usually an expression. It doesn't literally mean you've got a chip on your shoulder, like the picture suggests. It means that usually it's an expression to describe a person who acts, as you say, rudely or aggressively, but also in a manner that can be described as aggressively defensive. A person seems always ready for a fight. If they've got a chip on their shoulder, the first thing you say to them, even if it's not meant to be rude, they will take it rudely and they will get defensive. And that's what they mean by having a chip on your shoulder. So here's a little food for thought. It's the idiom itself, by the way. These idioms are all about food. Can you explain what they might really mean? So taking 2 bites of the cherry, selling like hotcakes, and going bananas. Think about what you think they might mean. Maybe write down your answer. So, taking 2 bites of the cherry. Taking 2 bites of the cherry is to go back for a second opportunity at something. If you failed the first time, you go back again and try again. Selling like hotcakes means that they are selling very fast. And going bananas means, well, going a little bit crazy. How about feel like a fish out of water, or to be like a fish out of water? The meaning behind it is that you feel uncomfortable because you're in an unfamiliar situation. So you might use it and say, if you feel like a fish out of water, you would feel awkward or uncomfortable because you're in an unusual or unfamiliar situation. I don't like going to big parties they have. I always feel like a fish out of water there. Or Todd is a country boy raised in a small town in Northumberland and was like a fish out of water when he visited bustling London. It means you're in a situation you're not used to being in. Here's a few more. What do you think these ones mean? A bull in a china shop, to turn someone off, or to hang on. Have a think. So a bull in a china shop is someone that's careless or in the way they move or behave. And much like a bull in a china shop, anytime they move, they might break something. To turn someone off is to disgust someone, to make them feel disgusted with you. And to hang on is to persevere, to keep going with something. Okay, here comes your first little task. So, numbers up. Lots of idioms are about numbers. See if you can fill in the missing numbers in these sayings. What do they mean? So, what I want you to do, have a go at these at 5. Just write them down on a piece of paper and we'll go through them tomorrow in the live session. So, your first one is dressed up to the something. It is a off, one in a something, back to square something, and in something, heaven. Think about those ones for a minute. And then your next set to think about are animal related ones. So it's raining something and dogs. Hopefully you can all get that one. That child is always crying something. Those are just something tears. To eat like a something, and I can smell a something. Now, what I want you to do is have a go, see if you can work it out. Then maybe go away and see if you can find out the real meaning or word with that's missing. And if you can come tomorrow with a meaning for one of these idioms, that would be great. And we can share them tomorrow. So, an extended metaphor. What is an extended metaphor? So, you can write a poem through the use of an extended metaphor. And this is where you start with a metaphor and keep within that idea throughout the poem. So you say something is something else. And then the rest of the poem is based around how all of the ideas within that metaphor come about. So you're explaining the way the metaphor works almost. You're thinking about movement, sounds, looks, and even feelings. So what I'm going to show you is a poem that is based on an extended metaphor. And it goes through quite detailed. It's by James Reeve, so a nice one similar to one we've done before. And we're going to look through it, read it, and then see, and then I'll set the task. So it's called The Sea. The sea is a hungry dog, giant and grey. He rolls on the beach all day, with his clashing teeth and shaggy jaws. Hour upon hour he gnaws the rumbling, tumbling stones, and bones, bones, bones. The giant sea dog moans, licking his greasy paws. And when the night wind roars and the moon rocks in the cloud, a stormy cloud, he bounds to his feet and sniffs and snuffs and sniffs, and shaking his wet sides over the cliffs, and howls and hollers long and loud. But on quiet days in May or June, when even the grass on the dune play no more than a reedy tune, with his head between his paws, he lies on sandy shores, so quiet, he scarcely snores. So there's a lot going on here. And this poem is a great example of an extended poem. And you can see that it uses the idea and what a dog does that can be linked to how the sea might behave. First, we have the colour and what it looks like, so giant and grey. He rolls on the beach all day with his clashing teeth and shaggy jaws. And if you think about the waves coming up onto the beach and back again, it's like something rolling on a beach. And its clashing teeth and shaggy jaws is the foam that goes with the spray. Hour upon hour he gnaws with the rumbling, tumbling stones and bones and bones and bones. It's that constant motion. The giant sea dog moans, licking his greasy paws. And again, you can think about this in lots of different ways, but licking his greasy paws could be like a wave. And the giant sea dog moans is the sound it makes. And when night winds roars and the moon rocks in the stormy cloud, he bounds to his feet and snuffs and sniffs, shaking his wet sides over the cliffs, and howls and hollers long and loud. So this is depicting a stormy sea and it crashing against cliffs, shaking its wet sides up and down the cliff, all over the cliff, and making that large amounts of sound. And then we have the calm version of that, where it's lying with his head between his paws, lying on the beach, almost not moving, scarcely making a sound. So all through this, it still relates the sea to a dog, just thinking about it in different ways and how else it works. So your task for today is to use any of the ideas that we've spoken about so far. So metaphors, similes, personification, extended metaphors, or idioms, and create your own poem using any one of them or all of them, however you would like to go about it, and come up with your own poem based around something that you're interested in. Maybe it might be the snow that we've been having, or the sun peeking through the clouds now. What might you choose your poem on? I'm really looking forward to seeing some of yours. And after today's lesson, where I've seen some of your ideas for similes and metaphors and personification, I'm really quite excited. Good luck. I'll see you in the next video, and goodbye.